So a viewer named Stacy had a fantastic question about citing sources, and we are going to cover that question today. How do you cite newspaper clippings that are in a scrapbook? It's pretty straightforward, except it kind of gets a little bit complicated. So the first thing we need to do is find a source citation template for a newspaper clipping. And the templates you will discover are going to be over on our blog, familyhistoryfanatics.com. But newspaper clipping template looks very much like this. You have author's last name, first name, title of the article, colon, a subtitle. Then you have the name of the newspaper, the city of the newspaper, if the city is not named in the newspaper. So Houston Chronicle, you wouldn't have to put Houston again, but you could. And then the date of the publication and a page number. I also like to put the column article. So let's say it's on page 3, column 5. That helps you when you have an 8-column newsprint sheet know which column to look at, because sometimes you have untitled articles and the entries are really hard to find. So sometimes you can put the column article. I left it off the screen right now, but know that you can put COL and then the number right after page number. So let's go ahead and talk about this article. How do we go ahead and cite this article? Because it's taken out of another source. We're not entirely sure the date it was published. However, we have a death certificate for Dr. Long and know about when he died. So if they're talking about the funeral to be held Monday, then we could go make a guesstimate, an estimate of when this might have appeared in the newspaper. And then the other thing is the publication. Where could this have been printed? He died in Columbus, Ohio, so probably the Columbus Dispatch. It could have appeared in a newspaper in Huron County, Ohio, because that's where he was born and that's where he spent his childhood. So I'm not sure which one this article appeared in. So ideally, whenever we find a newspaper article in a scrapbook, the best thing we could do is try to track down the original source. We can use newspapers.com, Chronicling America, Newspapers Archive, and we could also visit local libraries to try to see if we can figure out what the publication is, because you used the rough idea. I know he died in Columbus, Ohio. There's a good chance it's in that Columbus, Ohio Dispatch. I know from my personal research that the Columbus, Ohio obituary collection is available on the Columbus Metropolitan Library website if you have a library patron card. So ideally, you would go and you would try to find that original source. However, I have seen articles clipped into a family Bible from Canada, and I can't figure out what the original source is from the newspapers at this time because I live so remotely from the Ontario, Canada newspaper collections, and I haven't found the articles in that Bible in any digital sources. So that's on my to-do list for the future. So if that is the case and you still want to cite that newspaper clipping in a family Bible or in a scrapbook, then we need to go and do this with our citation. First, this article didn't have a author, and most obituaries are unauthored, so we just take that out. Next, we go ahead and add the title. Thankfully, this obituary had 2 headlines. They had the main head, the title, and then they had the subhead or subheading, which is also called a subtitle. So we separate that with a colon. So Dr. W.L. Long, and you capitalize everything based on what you see in the article. So Dr. W.L. Long stricken was in all caps. So then we do the mixed case for the subtitle. If you have any questions about that, be sure to leave those in the comment section. So next we need to do the name of the newspaper, but I don't know. I don't know what newspaper this is from, so how can we handle that? Well, that's when we can say it's a newspaper clipping from an unknown publication. Now, that seems like we're cheating, but we're going to say where we found this clipping in just a little bit. So for now, this works. If this was their standalone entry, I wouldn't necessarily go this way, but we're going to be citing the newspaper clipping and then the scrapbooks, so this is sufficient. Next, we can add a possible date of publication. I know when he passed away, so this is within that same day or the next day or sometime before Monday after he passed away is when that funeral is likely to be held. So that's why you can go ahead and put a possible date of publication, and then we don't know the page number, so we have NP, no page number. So this isn't sufficient, right? We don't know where anybody found this because we don't have the title of the newspaper. So that's when our handy dandy little semicolon comes in, because we cited the article. Now we're going to cite the container in which this article clipping was found. And we're going to separate it with that semicolon. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to use a scrapbook source templates. There are some specific ones depending on what source citation template style you use. I found that the easiest one for me to understand when I put it in a citation and for somebody else to read is to use the artifact plus home source citation template. It looks a little bit like this. So you have the creator, and you either have the title of your scrapbook or you describe the scrapbook, because some scrapbooks don't have titles. It's just the scrapbook that your Aunt Elizabeth created. So then you would just describe what that scrapbook looked like. Then you would talk about what kind of artifact it would be. In this case, it would be a scrapbook. When you think it likely was created, and then we need to say where can somebody find that scrapbook in the future. So I'm going to put Devin Noel Lee as the title of this scrapbook. The Life of Lester Long, or Devin Noel Lee was the author of the scrapbook. William Lester Long's life is the title. The artifact is a scrapbook, as we mentioned. The creation date was circa 2004. I would use circa because most of the scrapbooks don't include a date. If you do find a date of creation, go ahead and put that in. Just be very careful, because a scrapbook, like I have made scrapbooks that document my life in 2010, but I didn't make it until 2015, and I never actually put that information in the actual book. So you can go ahead and put circa and use the date that's on the scrapbook, and that's good enough. It's privately held by Stacy Doe. So yes, our viewer's name was Stacy, and I'm pretending that she has a copy of this book. So privately held by Stacy Doe. And then go ahead and put the address where she lives. If you're publishing this citation online and you don't want people to actually be able to contact you, you could say address withheld, privately held. There's a number of different ways of saying, well, I'm not going to tell you where Stacy really lives. So you need to make a judgment call of whether you're going to put the full address in your citation or not. And then when did she own it? She owned it in 2022. So now you have the scrapbook citation and you have the newspaper citation, and it's time to put it together. And this is often called a layered citation. You have one layer and another layer and another layer. So we just simply take the first layer, which is the newspaper clipping, and we use that semicolon and put the scrapbook citation portion thereafter. And now you can cite those newspaper clippings in any scrapbook that you have. If you have follow-up questions for this topic, go ahead and put them in the comments below. Be sure to check out our website, familyhistoryfanatics.com, for the show notes for this video, as well as numerous other articles to help you in writing your family histories, understanding your DNA, and climbing that family tree so that you can support the DNA and writing that you are doing.